So basically, kind of to start from the idea that our brains are fundamentally prediction machines. So every single word that's coming out of my mouth as I'm talking, your brain is generating word by word a prediction for what I'm going to say next. So if I suddenly cabbage, then as I said that word cabbage, which was unexpected in the context, your brain would have generated a kind of mismatched response. And we know from that and lots of other studies that this is a fundamental aspect of how our brains work. Young brains process information very differently for the very simple reason that they don't have so much prior knowledge. They don't have so much prior expectation. So their ability to do this predictive brain processing is very, very different. So we know from lots of studies that have been conducted very recently that what kind of maximizes learning, what young brains need to learn from most effectively, is slow-paced, predictable interactions. Yeah? So they need the same thing to happen over and over again because they're not so good at making predictions, so they need repetition to help them to make predictions. But also, because of this lack of prior knowledge, because of the fact that, to put it very crudely, the wiring diagram of their brain is much messier, yeah? This process of making predictions takes much longer. Yeah? So this is why young brains seek out slow-paced, repetitious, predictable interactions, things like peekaboo, things like singing the same song over and over again, things like reading the same book over and over again. And what kind of screens, and the modern world in lots of other ways, like urbanization, but particularly screens are giving us, is exactly the opposite of that. Yeah? For reasons I'll get into kind of later, the makers of screen content are increasingly kind of packing content, and there's really, really good evidence that this is a trend that's going up over time. They're packing screen content with fast-paced, unpredictable content. Yeah? And this is, as I say, exactly the opposite of what young brains need. Yeah? And the other aspect of this, and this is the kind of area where I think this is really, really important, I'm really keen to talk about this, is we know from, again, lots and lots of studies that have looked at this in lots of different ways, that if I'm in a situation where information is coming at me that is too fast-paced, that is too unpredictable, and my brain is struggling to make predictions to keep up with the rate of information that's coming at me, we have a kind of inbuilt mechanism to put our bodies into this kind of high alert, kind of hypervigilance mode, yeah? Which makes sense if you think about it. I'm in an unpredictable situation. I better be ready to respond at a moment's notice, yeah? So this is our brain sending a signal to our bodies that we need to be ready to respond at the drop of a button. So we go into what's called fight or flight kind of physiological mode, where our heart starts to beat faster, we get increased energy release to our muscles, and so on and so forth, yeah? And the thing that I think is really important here is we've got kind of good quality evidence from lots of different sources that children, when they're watching this fast-paced content, which is coming at them too fast-paced for their brains to process, are going into this physiological state. Yeah? Lots and lots of good quality evidence for that. Yeah? There is also kind of more indirect evidence that this might be relating to the large number of studies that have come out, a lot over the past recent years, specifically pointing to associations between early screen use and later life kind of behavioural and emotional dysregulation. So some nice evidence from the Department of Education came out for that yesterday, but also more long-term, specifically at kind of affective mental health problems. So that's to do with kind of depression and anxiety. Yeah? And we know that the fast-paced content triggers kind of this hyper-alertness, hyper-awakeness in a part of the brain known as the brainstem, which is very strongly implicated in conditions like depression and anxiety. So I think there's a really good, quality case to be made that this fast-paced content that we're exposing a lot of young children to at an early age kind of may be relating to these kind of behavioural and physiological kind of behavioural and emotional dysregulation and these later life kind of mental health problems.
Fascinating.